Here.
All right, microphone is on, recording. Recording. I pushed on air. That should be it, right?
Yes. You turn on the camera.
Mic on, recording. We're ready.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Planning Commission meeting of October 11th, 2022, City of Escalon. Can we start with a flag salute?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I have a roll call?
Chair Stroman has an excused absence. Vice Chair Sarkozy.
Here.
Commissioners Castellanos.
Here.
Engel.
Here.
Willis.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Please note all cell phones and pagers and similar devices need to be set on silent or vibrate mode or turned off unless you are an on-duty emergency responder. The meeting is also on the live stream if we have any online viewers tonight. Let's see. Next on the agenda is the consent calendar. To approve the minutes from the meeting of September 13th, 2022. Commissioners, do we have any comments?
I have no comments. I'll motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passed for nothing. All right, next we have a public hearing for project 22-771, a variance request at 2226 Jackson Avenue, Escalon, California, 95320, APN number 227-270-160-000. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, Vice Chair. Before we start the public hearing for Project 771, just out of courtesy for the audience, I just wanted to make a note. There was another public hearing scheduled for tonight. It was conditional use permit 22768 at 2307 and 2505 Jackson Avenue. That's Almond Grove. That project has been postponed. It was pulled off the agenda, so it won't be heard tonight at this meeting. When it's been rescheduled, a new public hearing notice will go out advertising the new date that project will be coming before Planning Commission. So if you are here for that item, you're welcome to stay, but it won't be heard or discussed tonight. Okay. Project 771. Commissioners, before you tonight is a variance application for 2226 Jackson Avenue. You have seen this site before. It came before us August 10th, 2021, where a variance application was before you regarding parking. And this is the old Big Boy site. It had been purchased and going to become Orlando's Market, remodeling the grocery store, adding indoor, outdoor, and dining area, increasing ADA accessibility, installing a pump fueling station, reconstructing the parking lot, improving the storm drainage, and creating additional landscape areas. Before you tonight is a variance request regarding signage. The city received a signage plan for Orlando's Market and the Chevron fueling station. And the proposed sign plan is requesting increased signage area allowance as well as increased letter height allowance over what the municipal code currently allows. In regards to signage area, the municipal code prescribes how much signage a site can have based on the frontage length of the building. And when you measure the Orlando's Market building, the site is allowed to have 185 square feet of signage. Based on the signage plan submitted for Orlando's Market, they're requesting 338 square feet of site signage, and those details for the signage are included in the exhibits. In regards to letter height, the Escalon Municipal Code limits signage letter height to 26 inches. That's 18 inches standard plus 8 inches enhanced. The applicant's requesting a maximum letter height of 4 feet 9 inches tall. And in order to approve the application, Planning Commission would have to make the findings found in Chapter 17 for variances. In accordance with revised public hearing notice standards, the public hearing notice was mailed to every property owner within 600 feet of the site. It was posted on the website, on Facebook, also advertised in the newspaper at least 15 days before this public hearing. No signboard was required because that's not required for variances. Staff transmitted the project proposal to different agencies and departments. Either their comments were included in the conditions of approval or their comment letter was included as an exhibit. Planning Commission's decision tonight starts a 10 business day appeal period, which would expire at 5 p.m. on October 25th. Staff's recommendation is that Planning Commission conduct a public hearing tonight, consider the variance application subject to the conditions of approval, and if approved, direct staff to file a notice of exemption with the County Recorder's Office. In order to approve the application, Planning Commission would need to open the public hearing and take public testimony, close the public hearing, make the findings as required, find the project CEQA exempt, and then approve the application and the conditions of approval proposed below. Looking at specific conditions, approval of the variance, which it gives a date of October 3rd. That would be need to be amended to October 11th. If it's approved tonight, it would allow the site to construct 338 square feet of signage as shown on Exhibit C, as well as allow a maximum letter height of 4 foot 9 inches as shown on Exhibit C. The rest of the conditions are just our standard city conditions. If you have any questions of staff, Dominique and myself are here to answer those questions. We also have the property business owner in the audience, as well as the sign company. So if you have any questions of them, they are also here for during the public hearing.
Great, thank you very much. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff at this point before we open the public hearing?
I have one. The address is given as 2226, and then the sign says 2626?
It will be updated on their final sign plan, yes.
I have a question. I'm assuming there's going to be gas trucks filling the tank. What is the ingress and egress on and off that's the site?
Yeah, the Caltrans required that they remove the 2 driveways that were on Jackson Avenue and do one larger driveway on Jackson Avenue. That has made it through Caltrans, and it's made it through city engineering, so that revised plan has been approved.
Okay, so the trucks will just basically do a circle around, I'm not sure where the tanks are, but they'll just kind of circle around and then come back out on Jackson?
Correct.
Okay. And then, so the large trucks will be prohibited from exiting off of Louise Avenue,
Elizabeth.
or Elizabeth?
That's a question we can talk about with the city engineer. I don't believe there's any signage to be posted on that exit prohibiting it,
Okay.
but I'll make a note and I'll discuss it with the city engineer.
I have no other questions.
Mr. Engel, anything?
I I'm good. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Great, thank you. So at this time, we'll open up the public hearing and get any questions from the owner or the sign shop. Nothing to add? Or do you have any?
Not really. I thought Brian
If you'll state your name.
Sam Orlando. I brought Brian with me from United Sign Systems. I'm not sure if they have the color versions or they do. Okay. I like what he did. We worked together. Had got Chevron's input as well. The price sign, as you well know, there's certain limits to the letter heights, et cetera, that automatically make it bigger than what the city allows for. So, but that's weights and measures that gets involved in that. So, no, I think it looks amazing. I think it's going to highlight what I'm doing there tastefully. I don't see any changes that I would make. We've studied it forwards and backwards. I would, if you have comments or you'd like to see something different, I'm all ears. Up to this point, a lot of positive feedback, not so much on the signage, but at least on what I'm attempting to pull off at that location.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mr. Orlando, the canopy, if I'm reading this correctly, is 15 feet 6 inches off the ground. If you're on 120 and you're looking at the front of the store, where does the canopy line up with the Orlando sign? It doesn't block it from the view of the drivers going by, does it?
Do we have an elevation of that, Brian, with us? Huh? Let me refresh my memory. No, she's talking about, I don't have that elevation here in front of me. It's my understanding that the canopy will be further out. Will you be able to see in your car the Orlando's market? I don't have that elevation. Let me just get you that elevation, because I can't answer that question.
It seems like that would have a determination of the size.
Well, I tried to use as much of the space as I could. I'm already over. So, yeah, that's got a lot to do with it. When you're westbound, you'll have a much clearer shot at the front of the building, just as you do now. I don't see the canopy. We're only putting 4 dispensers here, so it's not like my typical sites that have 6 or 8. So it's a much smaller canopy. And then, of course, when you're traveling eastbound on Jackson Avenue, Bob, the neighbor, is there. So unless you've made a quick look, you would see. But I think over time, people are going to know who I am and that I'm there. Will they be able to see that sign? I think they will. I'm being open 24 hours, they'll find me.
Do you have anything else, Commissioner Wilson?
Well, just making sure, the crepe myrtles are coming down, and the light standards, are they coming down, the ones that are just directly out in front of the front door?
It's all being redone. Everything. It leaves me much to reuse. It was kind of one of those things where when you got into it, so everything is being touched, every square inch, from sidewalks to landscaping, signage, restrooms, interior.
And then a question, there's inside and outside dining?
There is.
And as you look at the front of the store, is that going to be on the left?
Yes.
And there's no signage up advertising that?
There will be so many people having so much fun, they'll do my advertising.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Engel?
I have no questions.
Commissioner Castellanos?
Of course I do. A couple of questions, Mr. Orlando. First is, where are the underground tanks going to be located on the site?
The tanks are going to be, may I approach you, show you?
Sure.
I'll be easier than pointing. So the tanks are going to be, let's see, where am I? Where's Jackson?
Jackson right here.
Tanks are going to be right here, underground.
Okay.
So you had a question about ingress and egress.
Yeah, how are they going to get?
So Dylan Murphy, they have shown from either direction, never leaving Elizabeth Avenue as an exit for the fuel truck, can make this turn
Okay.
through auto turn and unload right here. And so they're staying on the property at all times. Never
Okay.
having to go down Elizabeth Avenue. Now, fuel tank drivers are gonna do what fuel tank drivers do, but I mean,
Yeah.
by and large, you know, PM deliveries are never, they just pull right in, and it's a very easy deal, so they'll be right here.
Okay.
I think this is showing the fuel tanks now, but they're being relocated to here because I'm working with Bob, the neighbor, on fencing. That was one of the conditions the last time I was here.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'm gonna try to maybe even pull a route out of having
Okay.
that property too, so we'll see.
And then I've a couple other questions.
Sure.
So I know that you have a fairly new Orlando's up in Pine Grove.
We do.
How does the signage on that location differ from what is?
Well, you have to understand a couple things. I'm the oldest of 13 kids, and so we all have our own stores, and we all run them very differently.
Okay.
I'm a little more aggressive as the oldest than my brother Brandon, who runs that store. Not picking on him in any way. He hasn't really added much signage to his location. My logos are kind of unique to my stores and my properties. So really, aside from the fueling stations and the car washes, we do identical. We use the same architects and the same civil engineers, et cetera. But it's how we run our stores and how we signage them and our offerings inside oil and water.
You run the Linden store?
I do. I built it.
And that's a similar sized signage? Exactly the same?
I don't have the luxury of the front of this building in Linden. It's a very narrow, and I don't, if I could, I would. I don't, it's a different building, and this being a tilt-up, it affords me a lot more luxury than, and, you know, even though Linden's I built that in 2001, it doesn't have anywhere near at one time I did have a lot of signage, and then we put a patio in, and, you know, I had to evolve, and so we had to make changes, but Brian doesn't know it yet, but we'll be replacing, because it's 21 years old, it's just, you know, this typical channel letters, but now that I have new logos drawn, we'll be replacing that, but I'll never, it wouldn't work. Different buildings.
Sure.
What's the speed limit of the traffic on the road in front of the Linden store?
The speed limit? Posted speed limit?
Yeah.
35, maybe through the town there. It's not much different than here, really.
No.
Because as I sit out there, people are slowing down. I mean, I don't know, maybe you have speed problems here, but it doesn't appear to me that people are traveling It's very similar to Linden with the 2 lanes, there's not a lot of, except the turn lane. I mean, it's very similar in a lot of ways.
The reason I ask, even in the code, we talk about the amount of square footage of the sign, but the speed that you're traveling at can help determine the size. If you're going faster, you want a larger sign, and if you're traveling a slower rate of speed, you don't need that big of a sign to tell you where you are or what you're looking at. So,
Right.
yeah, it needs to be commensurate with.
But you gotta remember, they're on their phones, they're eating.
No, they're not.
So we have to make sure.
And then I just have one other question.
Yeah,
I noticed, because, there's a large accumulative sign area as opposed to what the ordinance says.
Right.
So my question is if you're looking at the front of the new building.
Okay.
Off to the right, you have open 24 hours a day.
I do.
And then on the little thing that's the monument.
Yes.
In the corner, you're also telling people they're open 24 hours a day. I mean, I'm trying to,
Well, and I think that happened because when people, again, are traveling east, you're gonna see that monument sign before you ever see the building, because Bob is my neighbor, and he's way out on the street. So that's why I wanted to get it on the monument sign.
no, I'm not questioning the monument sign. What I'm
Right.
questioning is, it's not a big area, it's a small area.
Yeah.
On the building, but
Yeah.
if you're already saying 24 hours, and I'm sure once people go there a couple of times, they're gonna know you're open 20, or they'll be thankful you're open 24 hours.
Yeah,
a
hopefully,
day.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's the hope. I guess the only answer I could give you is it's the same reason I have in my store when I display wine. Sometimes I display it in a stack with cut cases, and I have bottles on the shelf because some people like to buy out of a case and some people like to buy off the shelf. In this case here, people may not, there's a lot of times people don't even read the signs. They may not notice one or not notice the other. So I just trying to pound them, trying to, I guess, be doubly sure that I'm getting the message out.
But you could also put that on the side of the building, because isn't that gonna be kind of a marquee
Yeah,
thing?
that LED sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping to use that strictly for,
Okay, I'm just asking questions.
yeah, I don't know that I have a good answer, or if I even have an answer, except I kind of anticipate using that one strictly for inside store items, maybe open on holidays or things like that.
For me, it's just concerning that the square footage allowed is, and what you're doing is almost twice as much.
And I thought about that when I got that email from Diana. I went back and I studied these pages. And, I mean, the ordinance doesn't allow for much. I know the ordinance is what the ordinance is, but, in today's times with LED signs and everybody wanting their brand and their logo and their name out there, but you're right. I just thought this would be, hey, I had to come in asking for what I thought would be best for the building with Brian's help. And the fact that it is over, yeah, it is concerning, but I don't look at it and I don't see anything. I had more signage on here before I came here. And part of it had to do with the patio signage that Ms. Willis was asking about. I took all that signage down. And I'm not expecting a pat on the back or whatever, but I did leave it with what I thought if I could get this, then I think this would work. And I think it's just tastefully done enough, but it is over. That's why I'm standing here. It's over. Now, the LED board, that's the up and coming thing.
Yeah.
And so, while I'm doing everything now from scratch, if I don't do it now, I'd probably never do it. So we decided, you're seeing, I mean, companies go that direction. I mean,
No, I was just
no, I get
concerned
it.
about the 2 24-hour
I
cycle.
get it. I get it. I just always feel that some people look one area and other people look a different area. And I just want to make sure that the guy that's not looking at the building or the guy that's not looking at the monument sign looks at the building. It's my hope.
I have no other questions.
Okay.
Question I have is just, I know it's LED, and those are certainly nicer than the old bulbs. But again, it is a lot of signage. Was there any, like, lighting study? Is it going to affect the neighbors next door, when it's illuminated at midnight?
Brian and I were talking, and he just alerted me to something that maybe he could answer for you as to how these LED boards actually work with respect to the intensity of the light during the day versus at night. I just learned it myself. Would you mind, Brian, explaining that?
Will you state your name, please?
Brian Campbell with United Sign Systems. Both the LED boards on the building and the LED gas price sign, they both have internal lighting photocells in them that during when the sun goes down and it gets nighttime, they automatically dim down at night because you don't need them to be nearly as bright at nighttime. And also, if it's too bright at night, it's blinding and you can't see it. So they automatically dim at night, and then during the daytime, when the sun comes up, they get brighter so you can see them. That's an automatic photocell that's inside the sign.
And then the LED sign in Exhibit C here, or Detail C, presuming you're gonna be able to customize that and you're gonna have specials on it, you said?
Yes.
So is that, when I think of, it's kind of similar to the sign the city has out by Arco. I guess on that side, I would be a little bit worried about kind of flashiness because, across the street and then there's some houses. I forget the name of the street, but their backyards are somewhat close. And if it is, I guess I'm just asking, are you expecting that sign to be flashy, on and off? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, going back to how fast people are driving down the highway, I would probably lean on Brian when setting it up. I don't see it being flashy because if it's changing too quickly, then nobody reads anything from it. That's my experience when I go places.
Usually they say, the ones we've done in the past, they say it usually stays on for at least 6 or 7 seconds. And then it'll just automatically change. It won't be flashing, bright, like Vegas or anything like that. It'll just be a message board to where people can read it when they're going down the road.
Yeah, I was thinking of the corner house on Jessica Circle there, their backyard.
I have one question. The sign on the front, it says flush mounted, but I'm thinking of the house immediately to the west. If that's lit 24/7, is that going to be visible by the neighbors?
It's flush mounted and the lights come straight out the face. The faces just illuminate, so there is no light shining
Okay.
sideways. I'd like to go back, if I can, to Barbara's question about the canopy blocking the store. It probably is going to block it a little bit if you're standing directly in front of it, but as the cars are driving down 120 and they're on an angle, they're going to see the sign before they get directly in line with the store. So I think it will be visible for quite a bit of the time as people are driving by. I think Mr. Orlando is a good neighbor to where if things are too bright or whatever, I think we can adjust the sign for the intensity and to change that.
Just go back to Mark's question.
If you can come talk in the microphone. Thank you.
I'm so loud as it is. Back to Mark's question, and because Barbara had a question in between, could you bring back up
Which one?
See?
maps to show
site
the, there you go. Because Mark had a question about, that sign is on the front of the building up, yeah.
Right there.
And
That's
he
where
was,
this 24 hours is,
Over here.
right there.
I think Mark's question was about the LED sign though.
Yeah.
Facing over towards the back.
Yep.
I don't know what the distance is that those signs can be read from. I mean, I'm hoping they can read it from there, but I don't think it's going to,
Yeah, I would say they should be able to read it from at least, what's that, David Drive? I would think as they're driving past David Drive, they'll be able to see it. You know, as they go past David Drive, about where that yellow, where Hula's is, I would think right in there, they should be able to start reading that sign.
so Mark's question is back over on Jessica, which is, more yeah.
Oh, on that corner?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think that'll be because that's off, you know, that's set back.
what's the dimension?
5 by,
Is it 10?
By 10, about 50 square feet.
5 by 10.
5 by 10, I mean, like Brian said, you know, not to toot my own horn, but, obviously there's a problem I'm gonna take care of. Well, I guess talk is cheap, but, and you don't know me, but, well, talk to Bob. Talk to Bob, my neighbor, see how amenable I've been so far. I mean, obviously, if there was a problem or someone was complaining, we would address it, or I'd call Brian, or get back to you and relocate it, or do what we had to, I mean, don't want to, and, I mean,
Change the
I'm in the retail business, I can't afford to have a sign up that's gonna alienate, you know, customers that I'm right there. You know, if it even was an issue, I don't know that it would be an issue that far over. You know, 5 by 10, you get it up in the air, it's up in the air how high?
About 10 feet, 12 feet,
12 feet?
not very tall.
Maybe we favor the corner as much as we can. Mark?
Towards the front of the
I
building?
mean, I don't know that Brian,
We just got to place it
I think you
there.
just put a placement, yeah, but I mean, obviously getting it further towards, closer to 120 would get it closer to where I need it to be and less closer to where maybe a nuisance.
Other questions for Sam?
None.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Thank you. Any other comments from the audience?
If you'll come speak at the podium, state your name, please.
Hi, my name is Jeff Riley, I'm a resident of Escalon. Was in construction for a while, so it might help you, sir, I'm thinking, because you're worried about the corner on Jessica, and you're also wanting that sign to be more on 120 than anything, so what about taking the sign and on the one side, kick it over 15 degrees or
We
so?
can build a base that's offset, so.
Yeah, so offset it by 15 degrees or 20 degrees or so now it's facing more 120 with some sort of a steel structure. So now by just kicking it a little bit, it's going to completely eliminate the lighting to the neighborhood, and it's also going to make the sign a lot more visible, and it'll be tastefully done. That's all I got.
Thank you, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, if that angles it,
All we would do is we just build a base and we would set it flush off the
Can you come
corner.
on?
Can you speak in the microphone? We record it, and there's people online.
So what I'm thinking is if we mount that sign directly to the building, on the left side, it'll be touching the building. On the right side, we'll build a base, a sheet metal, a base that just stubs it off the wall, maybe like 6 inches, 7 inches, just to get that angle to where it could be read better from 120, and that would keep the light from shining more towards the residential areas as well.
Could help to eliminate screeching brakes as they go by David and they see the bargain they want on the sign, and
Correct.
they'll catch it a little bit earlier, yeah.
And I brought this to Mr. Orlando's attention because I did one of these signs in Lockford at the IGA store, and it really helped out the client to be able to sell his goods inside the stores. It was, like aging potatoes and aging things that helped him get rid of his store so he didn't have as much, stuff thrown away, is the biggest reason why we thought of doing this, especially in today's times.
Okay, thank you. Anybody online that has a comment? That being none. Anybody else in the audience? Okay, with that, we will close the public hearing and come back to the commission for any,
I have a question of staff. What are the dimensions of the sign that we have up by Arco? Not 5 by 10.
I cannot recall.
I mean, from some directions, you're coming up to a complete stop and being able to read it. So when it changes, you probably can sit through a couple of changes, but
Let's see if that's something I could pull up, but it's been a few years.
Yeah.
I might not be able to pull it up from email.
maybe
Sometimes I
3
can
by
find it that far.
5? You think 3 by 5? Bigger than that?
I think it's bigger than that. But I don't know how big.
tuck back in there.
Yeah, and there are trees blocking it from some directions.
And I like the front Orlando's Market. I think it's, scale-wise, it fits the front of the building.
Well, and especially since the big boy sign was took up a similar portion of the frontage there.
Yeah, personally, I think that it looks great, and we are talking about technically 2 different individual businesses. So if we were looking at the gas station separately and the grocery store and added those 2 individual businesses at $185 apiece, we exceed the $338 that is being proposed. If we're looking at advertising for 2 businesses, I think the signs look fantastic.
We just need to correct the number.
Correct which number, I'm sorry?
Well, the front of the store says 2626, and it's
Oh, the address.
2226, yes.
Picture of Big Boy.
The one with the big puddle? Yeah. The swimming pool?
That's Lake Big Boy.
Yeah, that's memories.
I did give the letters back to Bob, the toys. They took all the letters back, so I don't know if they're gonna do it with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. It looks real good. The dimensions are not objectionable. My concern is that the canopy is going to block the view from certain perspectives, but maybe not from others. The sign, as far as the pricing, it's similar to what Arco has. Has to be right out there on the corner, on the frontage, and I like the stone base of it tying in with the facade of the store, so it's aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would motion to find the project CEQA Class 3 categorically exempt under Section 15301, existing facilities, and authorize staff to file the CEQA notice of exemption and approve the application as proposed below.
Thank you. We have a motion.
I'll second it.
And a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed 4-0. Congratulations.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We're all excited to see it
Yes,
come to
very
town.
much so.
If you guys have ever been into one of these markets, they'll bring a lot to the city.
Yeah.
I did the signs for his brother's store in Almond Grove, and I've done the stores for Sam and his dad a long time ago in Linden, and they do a great job. You guys will be very, very happy with it.
Great. We're looking forward to it. A long time coming.
He's a big sponsor.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can get the memo. You're supposed to have
Oh,
because I'm
jeez.
missing something, and I want to miss it.
Okay, so next on our agenda,
I'm missing something.
administrative matters.
We have none.
None?
We have 7.
Okay, we are moving right along.
No, you didn't.
So at this point, matters presented from the audience. At this time, the public may address the planning commission on any non-agendized item that is within the authority of the commission. The speaker is limited to a maximum of 5 minutes. Unused time may not be yielded to another speaker. The determination of whether an item is within the authority of the commission is a discretionary decision made by the commission chair. Any members from the audience, come on up and state your name again.
Again, my name is Jeff Riley. I'm a resident of Escalon since 2013. I've been told I'm still on probation because I'm not from here, so one of those things, and I'm still getting used to it. So my wife sent me a text message, you guys are having this. And I'm recently retired from San Jose Fire a month ago, and so I figured I'd just come to the meeting. I don't know if this is the authority to do this. As you guys know, we got somebody at a Family Dollar, I think, that was shot a couple of days ago. Sad situation. I had a P.O. box a few years ago in the post office. Somebody came by, ripped it open, very common there. The post office refused to put cameras in, and I think it would be something that would be worthwhile to look at, to have cameras on 120, at least to start there to help law enforcement, to try to get some of these people that are just passing through our town that are doing this kind of thing. So I don't know if you guys have the authority to decide that, but I think it needs to be at least put on the agenda and talked about. I think it would truly help with law enforcement. I do know that, an instance for San Jose, where I worked, the police cars had a camera that as they would drive along on some of the patrol cars, it would catch the license plates, every single license plate. I was just texting my retired San Jose sergeant lawyer, and he doesn't think that technology exists with stationary cameras. It might, but I think that that's something that we could look at just because of all of the traffic we have coming through 120 that could help with law enforcement. That's my comment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Staff, are we allowed to respond, or are we just listening? Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, and ask the question again online. Okay, no takers. Okay, then we'll move on to staff communications.
I just wanted to note that we are going to have our November 15th meeting. As I mentioned earlier, there was that conditional use permit for Almond Grove on Jackson Avenue. There's a possibility that that will be on that agenda. We also have a tentative parcel map, a lot split from 1 lot to 2 lots, scheduled for that as well.
Updated items since the last time we met. The municipal services review did go to council. We had our second public hearing on that item. It was approved. So we are making some adjustments to some maps that were inside the item that were a little bit hard to read. Adding some street names and such on there just to improve being able to make determinations on those maps. And then we'll be forwarding those over to LAFCO for approval. Just to do a point of clarification on that municipal services review, if you go into it, it talks about capacity issues with the wastewater treatment plant. And this is probably the most frequent question I've answered since we've approved the municipal services review, over past years, we've talked about a wastewater treatment plant modernization project, and that's something that we're moving towards. COVID kind of put a delay on it, but we are moving towards that. We did use COVID relief funds to pay for the design to have that plant modernized. We just got the 30% complete plans done, and so we're reviewing those and and moving it forward as we're addressing it. But the capacity issues are discussed in that document, and according to that document, there's roughly 4,000 or 4,500 EDUs left on the existing plant. And so I guess what I'm trying to make sure everybody understands, because I've been asked so frequently since this item came, the modernization of the plant is to address health and safety issues with our plant, from being an antiquated plant that we're been basically putting repairs to and fixing as best we can with the money we have over the last several years. The modernization is to upgrade it, to bring it to a tertiary system, which helps recycle water better and dispose of things better at the plant, as well as address ongoing concerns we have. It's old technology. It doesn't process as well as newer plants, and we're constantly having to make the repairs. And so we have ongoing notice of violations through the state of California to address those items. We've had them since 2014. And the only way we can address those items and clear our issues with the state is to make those improvements. So although we're doing the modernization to the plant, another thing that will be addressed is additional capacity. That's not what we're trying to accomplish in the modernization of the plant. So I just wanted to make that clear. The purpose that the city is moving forward with this plant is to address health and safety issues that the state of California has determined we're violating. So we are in violation. We've been in violation for several years. And it's taking us time as a small city to move that process forward. And so, yes, with modernization, it may increase capacity. We're not sure what level yet, because we reviewed different types of plants and different needs. We did that a few years ago. Because it's been so long, that will have to come back to the council and be re-reviewed and updated. And so I just wanted to put that out there as a point of clarification. So other items, we've been busy. Another item that came up was obviously the tragic event that happened last night. Our police department has been working around the clock all night last night, all day today, on trying to locate this person. They do have a person of interest, and they're just continuing to move forward. We are working with the sheriff's department for additional services like fingerprinting, as well as the Department of Justice to address issues and make sure we're helping, and everybody's working very well with us. And so I'm really grateful that our department is working so well, and Chief Flores is doing an excellent job taking the lead on that and making sure all of the things are connected and that we're continuing to move forward. A few weeks ago, we had a car accident over at Brennan and 120. That obviously brought a number of residents to the city concerned with the traffic signal. As you're aware, the city has worked on trying to get a traffic signal there for several years. We have spoken to Caltrans. We updated the council at the last meeting that we spoke with them and that they are going to come out and do another warrant study. And that will take some time. If you've noticed, they have placed cameras out there, so they are watching cars as they go by, taking down information. It'll probably be a few months before we get those results. Council also directed staff to put together a petition. So we're working on that, putting that out for people to sign who are interested in doing that. We can't guarantee that a petition is going to improve the likelihood it would happen, because it's Caltrans, which is a state agency. They work very heavily off of, research studies. And at that intersection specifically right now, nothing has changed since the last time they did the warrant, with the exception of the additional accident. We haven't had any development in that location. So I'm not necessarily sure that their results will bring a stoplight. But we are working on it to see where it goes. And this time around, we're definitely going to make sure that we find out what exactly is needed in order to get the stoplight there. So we've also had inquiries on turn signals and things like that, something at that location to improve it and make it better than what it currently is. And so it's just going to take some time, but we're working on it. So.
Question in regard to that. Would it make sense to present something to Caltrans after we know if the developer is going to go forward with that development? Because that's going to add more pressure
Yes.
to that intersection.
And we have been asked that as well. So a couple projects have been pointed out at that location. There's a discussed project of the housing development that would move in right there on the southwest end of Brennan and 120, which would bring in about 73 homes. They have not applied yet. Same thing with another business that's been brought up is the Weldway or Western Erectors that recently got an approval from council to be able to put in a septic system for their construction, which they're not anticipating to build for at least 2 years. And so those applications, once they submit to the city, will trigger Caltrans. We end up sending out the notification to affected or surrounding agencies, and then they take that information, and then they would run another study. And so they could run this study here, maybe determine that a stoplight's not needed and we're not able to address that, but then maybe those 75 home application comes in, it regenerates them to conduct their analysis over again, anticipating that you're going to have 75 homes, 3.1 people per house. You know, they're looking at all of the latest statistics and numbers that are often utilized when determining these things, and then maybe that is what brings it
And
there.
make sure they do the study while school's in session.
Yes, yes, and so, and I mean, and this is something we've been doing for so long, at least the last 15 years. We've been pushing for that. And we're working with them on getting those things. The first thing they need is the police reports, which as soon as they're available, we're gonna get them over to them. But in the meanwhile, they're conducting all of that information. Yeah, so that will be a trigger.
And how many accidents have occurred at that intersection? That's another one.
To my knowledge, the ones that we have reports on are the last two that I've seen. That doesn't count things that Highway Patrol has. And so because it's Highway 120, we're the responding agency in the aspect that it's in town. However, if CHP wants to take it over because it's their highway, they have records of all the accidents. We only have records of the ones that we handle. And so those are the two that we have, for the most part, taken the initial report on and or follow-up. And so those are the two we have on record. But if you were to go to the California Highway Patrol, anything else that they have that's been called into them where they've responded first, they'll have those records as the primary agency. And those are the big ticket items that are hanging out.
Good to hear that it's a possibility.
Yes, yes, and they were very open to it. You know, they wanted to do, they were surprised that they had not been, they have a notification system that's supposed to advise them of accidents, and it hadn't processed through. And so we had reached out to them within a few days of the accident and advised them. And they said, well, we're surprised we haven't gotten that yet because our system is supposed to do that. So they're definitely willing to work with it, and so.
All right. Diana, anything from you?
That's it.
Okay. So Commissioner Communications. Commissioner Castellanos?
I have none.
Commissioner Willis?
When Family Dollar came in, I talked to a woman on that side of town, and she was so happy that Family Dollar came in because then they didn't have to cross, you know, the railroad tracks and whatnot to come to Marval. And then we have something so bad happen there, and now we've got another grocery store coming in. I like Mr. Riley talking about cameras. We've got to do whatever we can to ensure safety. I'm sure Mr. Orlando has his own ideas and whatnot, but it'd be nice if we could, if the city could do what it could, you know, to ensure safety. And
We can definitely look into that. it would probably be something that we would have to run through Caltrans since it's their highway, and it could be possible that they have things, places that maybe we don't know about, or that they're in the process of doing. And so we can coordinate with that as well, and maybe share on that.
Good report tonight, thank you.
Can I ask a question real quick? Has there any thought with just for the conversations about the signage? And I know that once upon a time we were looking at doing that and then it's kind of dropped. Is that something that we should be looking at?
What was it that you had said? You hit the mic right when you said what it was.
Well, look at our signage ordinance. You know, that might be something we might want to consider.
Yes, and
looking
so
at
that
going
was an
forward.
item that both Planning Commission and Council discussed, and we were going to do workshops and basically ask for business input and such, and then COVID happened. And so everything kind of shut down, and signage, additional signage was being added all throughout town. We're open, and so we put it to the side knowing that it wasn't the right time. It is on our list of to-dos. We're in process right now of trying to lock somebody in for development services manager position, and that's gonna be one of the items that they'll take on, as well as a few other items that we haven't been able to get to. But sign ordinances, amendments are definitely on there.
Randall?
Oh, sure. A few weeks ago, we had a workshop on some improvements to the park at Main Street. Do we have a status on progress on that project?
I felt like it was so long ago that I forgot to report on it.
So much has happened since then.
So we did have those meetings. We had a daytime meeting, which we had one person in attendance, and then we had an evening meeting that looked to be about 12 to 15 people. We felt like it went really well. A lot of concerns from the residents and business owners were expressed, mostly around trying to accommodate the park around the events that happen throughout town, specifically car show, park feet, those type of things. As far as amendments, are you aware of what we've changed on there, if we've made any changes to the plans?
No, they're just reviewing the comments, reaching out to the railroad regarding the park improvements is kind of the next step, is to get them on board.
So does it look like it's potentially on track for construction next year?
That has not been changed, so yeah, unless there's a major change to it, it should remain on track.
Very good. And one last thing, and it's probably more important than the park. Obviously, with the events that happened last night, there's been a lot of things said. Do we have a confirmed status of the victim, like how they're doing?
The last thing I had heard was that she had had surgery this morning and that she was in critical condition but stable. And that's the last thing I'd heard.
Yeah, that's great to hear. My question, thinking about the next meeting or possibly the December one, if we're having one, we have a potential to lose 2 commissioners to the election. What does that do to our commission at 3 people? Is that enough, or do we need to add 2 more people rather quickly?
So we had adopted a process for that a few months ago for Planning Commission and Rec Commission. And so the process would be to advertise for 30 days. And so you would be a quorum of 3. And so we would need all 3 of you at every meeting until the positions were filled. And we would put it out for, I believe it was a 30-day period, advertise in the newspaper, take applications, and then conduct interviews with the council. And then we would move from there. So yeah, we would just need to make sure that the 3 of you remain at the meetings to move forward.
Sounds good.
So when would, in the event that happens, when does those seats become vacant?
The seats become vacant as soon as the candidates are sworn into office, and so it just depends on when the county officiates the results. And so then at that next meeting, we always shoot for the first meeting in December, However, I believe the last election, it didn't fall that way. But we do shoot for the first meeting in December, and so then it
That's
would
really
be
quick.
effective that night. And so then it's potentially, if we had the December meeting, there would just be the three of you. Yeah.
How many do you need for quorum? Three?
Three, correct.
Okay, that's exciting. Okay, great. With that, we will adjourn at 7:30. Thank you, everybody.